Hi, I'm Rhonda Pick, Managing Editor of Pig Health Today, and with me is Dr. Kara Stewart. She's an Associate Professor of Animal Sciences at Purdue University. Kara, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
As part of your work with the Improving Pig Survivability project, you've recently shared some highlights of best management practices related to colostrum, which we'll dig into in a little bit. Before we go there, I'd like to see if you could share a few insights and also trends related to piglet survivability. How are we doing in the U.S. pork industry?
Well, that's a good question. So I think there's a lot of variability depending on the farm that you're on in pre-weaning survival. But some farms get as high as a 17% mortality rate prior to weaning. And other farms stay down around the less than 10%. But I think either way, we have some room for improvement to increase survivability prior to weaning.
So when discussing piglet survivability, why is the factor of colostrum such an important part of the discussion?
So pigs are a species who really require colostrum in order to survive. That's different from humans and some other species, but pigs really do require it to survive because they need that immune protection from their mother in order to survive. It has other important aspects to it, not just with survivability, but also it affects their long-term growth trajectories and some of their later in life developmental competence like fertility. So it's a really important factor for us to focus on and is a real big driver of survival in pigs.
When you look at piglets, are there any trends as far as which ones typically consume the most colostrum?
Yes, so we know that the larger birth weight piglets consume more colostrum. Also, you have an advantage of being born earlier in the litter birth order. Those piglets tend to drink more. An important thing to know about colostrum is it's only around for the first 24 hours after farrowing. So from the time of the birth of the first piglet, colostrum amount and composition is going to be changing drastically over those first 24 hours. So the piglets born early and born big are able to get access to more colostrum, and they also just have a stronger suckling stimulus, so they take in more colostrum.
So which management factors are most critical to keep in mind during the first 24 hours of that piglet's life?
So here's where I may not be a very popular opinion, but I think we have a lot of work to do in this exact area. And the reason is we started thinking that things like split suckling and drying piglets were good management practices to stimulate colostrum intake and aid in survival. And I think that some of these management practices anecdotally did increase survival, but it might be just because we put employees in the barn to maybe, grab piglets when their mom sits on them and crushes them, or kind of just be present more in the farrowing process. And I think we did aid in survivability, but a lot of studies have shown no direct increase in colostrum intake in the piglets when these management practices are adopted. So while those management practices, I think, have helped in survival, they haven't actually done that through increasing colostrum intake. And I think we still need to start investigating ways where we can be sure that every piglet gets to drink enough colostrum, not only from the survival standpoint, but from those other parts where the colostrum intake actually changes their developmental trajectory.
So when looking at the specific management of split suckling, what are we doing right and where should we be changing our thought processes?
Usually there's two thought processes on split suckling. Either you do it based on birth order, so you just let the early born piglets have some good drinks and then remove them and let the later born piglets get access, or you do it based on body weight, where you just kind of remove the heavier birth weight piglets and let the light birth weights get an extra time to drink. The problem with those is that we haven't really seen that they're actually taking in more colostrum. So those light birth weight piglets still don't drink any more colostrum. So I think we need to be real creative in this. My plan for the future here is actually just to supplement colostrum directly to light birth weight piglets to ensure they're actually getting the extra nutrition.
I know other research you've done has looked at the practice of drying piglets. There's also considerations with warmth of the piglets. Tell us more about what the current thought process is on that front.
Yeah, so I did just a small trial at Purdue, but simultaneously, Dr. Mike Ellis from Illinois was doing a really large commercial trial on drying piglets. And their data showed that drying piglets was very effective at changing body temperature of the piglets, light birth weight piglets especially, but that it also didn't have a big impact on colostrum intake. So even though those light birth weight piglets warmed their body temperature up faster, for whatever reasons, they did not go seek the teat and take in more colostrum. The other thought maybe is that they aren't capable of it. The smaller piglets maybe only have such a limit to their suckling abilities, and maybe just the capacity of their stomach to hold colostrum. So maybe they get full faster, but they did not intake any more colostrum from drying. But drying definitely did warm up those piglets, and their mortality rates were not different from being dried or not dried unless the barn temperature was pretty cold. And then mortality was helped by being dried.
For those who are interested in learning more about the topic of piglet survivability and colostrum management, where should they look for additional information?
So our grant has a website, piglivability.org, and we put all of our information up there as well as the results of all of our research going on. But we're also developing fact sheets, not just from the research from the grant, but research from people all over the world, just to summarize things for management and all of that.
We've been talking with Dr. Kara Stewart from Purdue University. Kara, thanks again.
Thank you.